I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. Mr. Christopher? Yes. Dr. Marion?
Yes.
Mr. Thorpe?
Yes.
Mrs. Bird? Here. Mr. Pratt?
Here.
And Mr. Helms is absent. And that is excused. He's at work. All right, I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Mr. Christopher, second. Ms. Bird, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next we have recognition. You.
Thank you, Mrs. Powers. Good evening. We have one recognition here tonight. We're really excited about the message that we're going to share with you tonight. The Fort Zumwalt School District has a long history and partnership with the American Heart Association and the Kids Heart Challenge. Not only do we have a long partnership and relationship, but we've got some great successes that we are often able to share, and this year is like all others. And so I'm going to introduce Cheryl Schnettgoki, and she's going to tell us about some of the wonderful accomplishments that we have been able to obtain with Fort Zumwalt School District, and we've got some superstars here that I know that she wants to brag about as well.
Absolutely, I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having me. I enjoy coming every year to I want to say Dr. Myers, I want to say Pierce. I love bringing good news, because, it's awesome. Next month is February, National Heart Month. So most of the schools in the area are going to be kicking off. So I'm a school engagement director with the American Heart Association. So I partner with the PE teachers and the nurses, bringing in those health facts and trying to get the students to go home and share them with their families as well. So I love sharing how much you guys have been a huge role in it. So last year, Fort Zumwalt had their second consecutive time of being the #1 district in the entire state of Missouri. So that is awesome. Thank you so much. Donations raised for over $179,000 just last year from your schools. So yes, many, many thanks, because research cannot be done without the funds. 453 families learned hands-only CPR. And we're learning that students are housed with not just their parents anymore, they're with older adults or their grandparents. And so it's very important that we share the importance of hands-only CPR, the warning signs of stroke. Are our kindergartners going to be able to go home and do hands-only CPR? No, but maybe they're going to see something's happening. And when I go in and I speak to them, I say, who can you call? And they're like 911. So they learn that they can be a part of it. And so just last year, we had a mom and her kindergartner son in church for Ash Wednesday. And a gentleman got up to get his ashes, and he started to slump over the pew. And the little boy said, Mom, we need to help him. And she kind of looked around thinking, there's going to be other people, I don't know what to do. Nobody came up. So that both of them ran over. She put him on his back. She did the compressions, and the little boy counted 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. And they saved the gentleman's life right there in the church. So it's messages like those that we're sharing with the students in the district. So thank you for letting us be a part of it. I also want to congratulate Sherry Palmer is here with Progress South. Progress South was your #1 school, not only in your district, but the entire state of Missouri. So Sherry, I am very proud. I would like to give you this award. Thank you. Progress South raised over $30,000 last year. Again, like I said, the #1 school. And I just recently told you that 453 families in the district learns hands-only CPR. Sherry has 118 of those just in her school. So she's very passionate. She has a very passionate story about her dad that she shares with the students, and she knows how to talk to the kindergartners all the way up to the 5th graders, so they know, how it's impacted her, and it could impact them as well. So thank you for being a huge part of it. Thank you. And we like things to happen in threes, right? So let's have the good news of our third. So Mason Lakehoff, would you and your family please come up? Mason's been here before, so he's no stranger. And he brought his little sister Mackenzie too. Mason is always my top student at, throughout the district. He attends Lewis and Clark. And Mr. Haley wishes he could be here today, but he's not. But this year, Mason was the #1 student in the state of Missouri. Yes, just last year, he raised over. So Mason, what is one of your favorite things you like to do about with Kids Heart Challenge? Raising money, because you know it goes to a good cause, right? Do you tell people that you're affected?
Yep.
You want to tell them what you've had done?
I had a heart transplant when I was 3 months old.
He was 3 months old, so yes. And Mackenzie's a huge supporter as well. So you attend DuBray, right?
Yep.
Now he's at DuBray, so the middle schools, it's a little iffy. They're not elementary anymore, and they're not ready for high school. So Mackenzie might have to help you this year, right? So yeah, and all of my top students get to go to the hoops game and throw the first pitch as well. So we like to recognize them. So thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Get one big group photo. Sherry, if
Absolutely.
you could come up, and Dr. LaCrone and Mr. Johnson are here as well. Mr. Johnson, principal at Lewis and Clark Elementary School. Dr. LaCrone, principal at Progress South.
We're gonna get everybody together.
Let's do it.
Congratulations.
You got your thing? Okay, let's go.
Oh, wonderful.
Mom, Mason's really creeping up on you there. He's getting. There we go. There's Mackenzie. Thanks and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next, we have comments from the public. I will remind you to please keep your comments 3 minutes or under. First, we have Mr. Dino.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, public advocate and running for the school board this April. It's been 4 months since the tragic accident of the bus issue with one of our students, and unfortunately, they lost their life. There's been an investigation that has been ongoing by the district, which has been MUM, by the O'Fallon Police Department, and by the Missouri Highway Patrol Crash Investigations Recreation Division. There needs to be some answers and some type of statement made to the public. There's going to be a major lawsuit soon, as this family will endure for the rest of their lives the loss of their young child. There needs to be explanation and release of findings to the public, causes of the incidents, and ramification changes to safety measures to make sure that this never happens ever again in our district or anywhere across the state, or for that matter, across our nation. Overall safety of our students, employees, and volunteers in schools is at the highest yield right now in terms of there's just too much violence, too much doctoring of administration at these buildings, of not reporting the Safe Schools Act requirements to the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and we're not getting the actual value and the actual facts of what type of violence is happening within our buildings across the district, because it all comes down to money and daily attendance rate. Once they suspend a student for a matter of time, that loses district money for our district, and that's unfortunate, because I think there should be a zero tolerance for violence or behavioral issues in terms of assaults and abuse within our schools across the district. Tonight, there's a lack of a school board agenda, and I would think that over close to a $300 million budget and a district of close to 19,000 students, that we would have more to talk about and more of a meeting agenda than just one item, which is going to be a brief, possibly 5 to 10 minute update on the district's progress. In state legislation, the General Assembly went into business a couple weeks ago, And I would encourage each and every director and people who care about education to look at all the bills that have been submitted by state representatives, 163 and 34 state senators throughout the state. They're really going to have an adverse effect on our school district and all 153 school districts. I'm sorry, it'd be 453 school districts statewide. It's really going to have a dramatic effect. And finally, I'd like to make sure that you know updates, that there's proposed amendments and funding changes for pensions that will affect certified teachers and non-certified staff. Thank you.
Next, we have our consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion.
All right, Mr. Pratt, second Ms. Byrd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Financial reports.
All right. Good evening. Thanks for having me. The report this month, I know I start to sound like a broken record, but this month was a really good month because we started to get our property tax receipts in. So our balance flew back up just after it was at its low point. Now it's at probably its second highest point of the year. The end of January is typically when it's the highest, but we finished with almost $100 million in operating funds, funds we pay staff with and buy everyday supplies. So it's very high balance. Overall, with the revenues, they're looking pretty good. Investment earnings, which I've talked about before, they're down, but we've also adjusted the budget. And now with the adjusted budget, we're kind of on track to hit that new target based on the Fed funds rate going down. And it does look like that rate probably will not go down again for the rest of this semester. So we might finish the year really much better than I had originally thought when they were talking about cutting the rate every month or so. The other good news was property taxes are currently $4 million higher than they were at the same point last year. We estimate to finish about $1 million higher than last year, so I think it's more just the timing of the collections. It'll probably even out, but if it doesn't, that'd be great news. Really, the only way we could get more property taxes than we forecast is if the collection rate goes up, but our collection rate stays pretty steady. About 96% of the property tax assessed gets paid on time. 1 to 1.5 goes to fees with the county, so we always have about 2.5% of people that don't pay their property taxes on time, which is actually a very good number when you compare it to other places of the state. And if you're looking through the expenses and the revenues and compared to last year, the one area that really stands out are the enterprise accounts. They're both about $1 million higher than last year. Some of that is just the timing of when we're doing it. We're also collecting more money online, which means the money comes in quicker. And then if it's something for like a heart health challenge, it then goes out quicker. And we really think that's what's causing it, but they're almost the same. The revenue is a little higher than the expense. So enterprise accounts are expected to wash out. But if you looked at it, you see it's much higher than last year at the same time. Is there any other questions?
Questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the financial reports as presented. Dr. Marion, second. Mr. Christopher, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Old business? Dr. St. Pierre.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Powers. One item under old business, and we'll draw your attention to this meeting here. We have an update on our continuous school improvement plan. We did more of a comprehensive update this past summer. This is just going to be a little bit of a cliff notes, just focusing on a couple of areas, recruitment and retention, and efficiency and operations. But just as a refresher, those are our 5 areas of focus that on which our CSIP is constructed. And we're about halfway through our 3-year plan. So we're 1.5 years or so in. So we thought it was a good time to kind of bring back a couple of these items to kind of highlight some areas of accomplishment, but then also point to some areas for continued emphasis and growth. And we will plan a more comprehensive, thorough update again this summer, much like we did last summer. With that being said, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the efforts that have been going on in the area of recruitment and retention. We did have two SMART goals that are kind of driving our work in this area. And the first is to increase our applications per vacancy by 15%. That's for all categories, and again, that's over the next 3 years. A couple things that just kind of cherry pick some of the things that we've done to help accomplish that goal is Dr. Neal, our Director of Recruitment and Retention, has done a wonderful job of of really just highlighting all the great things that our team members do day in and day out, and the great accomplishments that we are able to see come through in our district, and just really highlighting the joy that our team members experience on a day in and day out basis, and working to identify the district as a destination district. We've streamlined our application process because we know that sometimes that's a barrier for candidates. Try to make that as efficient as possible. We have a kiosk where candidates can come in and apply here in person if they don't have access to electronics, and also have a paper application if we need that as well. We've gotten a lot of traction out of a text messaging feature that we've adopted called Emissary. It just allows us to engage with candidates much more quickly, and sometimes in a medium that they prefer. We can do that individually or in bulk, but we've seen lots of good feedback on that. And so those are just some of the highlights of the action items that we've been able to undertake. But we can see we're well on pace to meet our goal. Our goal is increased by 15%, and we're up so far over 31% compared to last year. So we're doing well with bringing in more candidates, a deeper candidate pool. We know that will allow us to continue to find and identify the best employees that we can have to work with our kids. Good trajectory there. Our second SMART goal is to reduce the number of resignations. So once we get our good candidates in, we want to keep them. So reduce the number of resignations in all categories by 20%. Again, this is over the next 3 years, and we're about halfway through. And again, just to kind of highlight some of the action steps that we are in the process of working through in order to keep the great team members that we have. We've created a paraprofessional mentor program this year that's up and running. We're very proud of that work that's been done. We've expanded and rebooted our teacher mentor program. We have implemented intensive professional learning communities, training for every building team through curriculum and instruction office with Ms. Waters. We've introduced WellBeats, which is a virtual employee wellness program. With our FC Education Foundation, we've created a forgivable loan for paraprofessionals who are interested in becoming teachers. Much like we have our Grow Own Teacher program, we've created an offshoot for paraprofessionals. With the board's approval and support, we've increased our substitute teacher pay, and we know we've allowed out-of-district employees to have their children attend Fort Zumwalt. All measures that we think have a positive impact on retention of staff. This is a picture of some of our paraprofessional mentor training that took place this summer. Every building has a paraprofessional mentor now. And the state of Missouri requires that teachers in their first several years of the profession have a mentor. We've expanded that out, and we know that everybody can benefit from having a mentor. So this came out of our CSIP. What about paraprofessionals? They need some mentoring too. Our old approach was, quite frankly, sometimes turn them loose on day one and give them a pat on the back and say good luck. And that really wasn't always very effective, shockingly. So this para-mentor program now is a real intentional, kind of gradual release training model for new hires. They spend their first 5 days, 10 days with a veteran, effective paraprofessional. They get an opportunity to see how the job is done, have somebody who can answer questions for them, point them to resources. And that's a project that's been done in collaboration with our special services team, Dr. Smith, Dr. Winterode, Katie Bullock, Angie Albert, and credit to them for all their work that they've put forward in that program. We've seen great success out of that. I'll show you a little bit of data with that. That kind of wraps back to that in just a moment. We, for every new hire, we implement a new hire survey. 30 days into the job, we just want to touch base with them, see how are they doing, do they have any questions, and these are some of the key data points that we've gathered out of that. This is this year's results year to date. Do you feel they have a positive connection to your building? 100% say yes. Do you know who to contact if you have a question? 100% say yes. Do you feel comfortable contacting this person if you have a question? Yes. That's ancillary data that just shows that when we get good team members in, we want to, again, just want to make sure that we're supporting, and this onboarding is not just a one-time event, it's more of an ongoing event. Again, going back to that new hire survey, we asked this question of all of our new hires: would you refer a family member to consider working for Fort Zumwalt? Almost 96% say yes. We know that word of mouth is oftentimes the best recruiter. I've put this slide in here because this kind of speaks to, talked about the increase in substitute teacher pay that we were able to accomplish. This is the number of teacher absences from August through December 20th over the last 3 years. Now you can look at that and say, gosh, we're higher this year, that number all the way to the right, 10,269, than we've ever been in its 3-year history. Well, part of that, in the real fine print there, you'll see the PD-related absences. Over 1,111 PD-related absences this year, and that's up substantially from 400 and some the 2 years prior. Again, that speaks to retention, because that we know that, you know, when we can empower staff members to do the best job that they can, when we're able to provide training, that they're going to be more effective, they're going to feel better about the job that they're doing. So while our absences are higher, a great percentage of that is due to the professional development. And this is our substitute teacher fill rate. Again, month over month comparisons over the last 3 years, and you'll see, you know, December of this year is higher than December of last year. So that percentage rate is higher, and generally those bar graphs all trend favorably for us. Again, thankful for the Board of Education and your support in allowing us to increase that substitute teacher pay and make that as competitive as we can. But it's beneficial when we're able to identify substitutes, get them in the building. We can free up teachers for professional development. Teachers don't feel as bad about being out of the classroom for the day when they know they have a qualified substitute that's going to be filling in for them. So our sub data is trending in the right direction there as well. We're seeing increases. That percentage is higher, but the number of absences is higher. So kind of a twofold impact there for the positive. So how does all that translate into staff resignations? If we look at teaching staff first, our baseline is the 2022-2023 school year. Our resignations from comparing 2022 to 23 to the 23-24 school year, we are down 23 resignations, and so that is trending in line with our goal where we want to be. Of course, we don't have that data set yet for 24-25. Typically, those are going to all come in later in the year. So we'll continue to watch that very closely. But again, for our teacher resignations, we're trending in a good direction to meet that goal. When we look at support staff resignations, it's a little more of a mixed bag. You know, we're kind of a little more stagnant in some of those categories. That is our opportunity there for certainly continued emphasis and continued growth. We haven't quite seen the reductions that we are hoping for, and gives us areas for continued focus. But what I want to kind of draw attention to is the paraprofessional data. Again, going back to that para-mentor program, the benefits of intensive, targeted support for folks new to a position, new to the profession, and some of those impacts that we have seen. Probably can't attribute it all to the paraprofessional mentor program. It's lots of other things going on too. Our building leaders are working to create positive work environments and cultures and climates in their building. Certainly has impact as well. But we see more applications submitted when we compare apples to apples over the last 3 years. We see more paraprofessionals hired. We see fewer resignations, again, apples to apples comparisons, and fewer vacancies. So we do believe, and there's research that shows that mentoring, structured mentoring is impactful. This is kind of one way in which we're seeing it hopefully bear out here in Fort Zumwalt. So not only is that's positive, but it also probably gives us some thoughts to expand some of that programming into some other job categories as well. But we're certainly happy for for those results, and again, we see some things that we can continue to work on. So that's a little bit of an update on the recruitment and retention side of things. Again, grateful for Erin Williams is in the audience here. She's our new Chief Human Resources Officer and has done a lot of work in that area as well, as is Amy Neal. I'm grateful for the board's support as well. We will move it over to the efficiency and operations side of things. And Dr. Myers is going to speak to this topic a little bit here as it relates to our bond projects.
Okay, thank you, Dr. St. Pierre. We're going to kind of work back and forth on advancing the slides, so we'll see how that all goes. But efficiency and operations is overall, for the purpose of this review, we are looking specifically at our utilization of the $125 million Prop 4 bond. And so we're at a place where when you read through the particulars of what we laid out in the CSIP, we always want to look at our efficiency, how we're utilizing district resources, and we want to be auditing that information as we're doing it. We're also at a phase in that bond where, in particular, as we go through the rest of this spring, we need to start looking ahead about future bond planning and have the parameters in place to give the district good information about what projects we think may be needed, what we think those would entail, and get good dollar amounts associated with those in advance, so that when we prepare to go out for a future bond, that we have good information and a solid foundation as to why we're arriving at those figures. So this just talks about the focus of the update, and if you want to jump at one more, talking about, again, our CSIP focus areas. This is specifically looking at cost efficiency and reviewing and auditing our district procedures. So with that in mind, this is quick summary bullet points that to date, out of that $125 million, we've sold $75 million. The plan is coming up in the spring, given our project timeline, so to continue to work on the transportation center, the ongoing work for HVAC, the scale up on the work related to the pool, and then additional projects that we're preparing to come out and sell that remaining $50 million. So again, that second bullet point is kind of in reference to what I was talking about, beginning that next phase of bond planning. And one of the things that we're talking about doing within that, and I think it's important to emphasize, this is the conversation stage. So there's no approval attached to any of this, but we have asked Toby in facilities and construction, along working with Brian, to develop an RFP for a third-party company that could come in and do a comprehensive facility needs assessment for us. And when I say comprehensive, we're talking about obviously your structural facility issues, but we're also talking about things related to like our inventory systems, how we manage replacement schedules on particularly high dollar items, so that we have a more global, comprehensive look about where our replacement needs are in the district, and we're tying that to appropriate operating expenses and future bond planning. So the reason I'm kind of emphasizing that talk portion of it is we've developed the RFP, we've got kind of fine details to go into it. Then we want to take that out and see what numbers come back to us on bids and costs. Because it's not a very efficient system if that bid comes back at $400,000 or something that's not manageable for us. Comparable from what we would know given our size, you're probably well in the region of 50,000 plus for that kind of service, and we've had some conversations with districts around us who use a similar process, but you see what the bids come in and you see the scale of scope of what we're asking them to do. So that would be for a future approval if we come back with pricing that we're feeling comfortable with. Switching back more into the review portion, this is just a quick slide. It's a little bit cherry picked on projects that we have substantially completed. And that's one of the things when you're looking at that accountability part for you as members of the board and the community, what we want to consistently see is when we get to our solid estimates that were created by the architects or the engineers, we take those out, we yield our bids, are our final project costs coming in where those estimates have been set. by our architects and engineers. So here are 3 substantially completed projects. The Clemens Center addition, North High School Commons and multipurpose room, we got a little bit of fine work there. And then the storm shelter at Pheasant Point has all been done. You could technically bring North Middle School into this, but just keeping in mind that we have that final phase of the project still, that demo side, and then all the replacement of that for being a parking lot. I didn't include it here because I don't want to give a false indication of where that final number is going to be. But you can see across these, the total project estimated cost to our actual program estimated cost, we're coming in below that mark. So when you have good estimates derived by appropriate professionals, architects, and engineers, they are hitting that mark and it's matching our bid. So that's one thing from an accountability standpoint. These are some other bullet points that I pulled from the construction sides of things that we've looked at over the course of this bond. Already referenced that we're consistent with our estimates and final costs. Also important to know that when you look at the remaining bond funds and the scale of the projects that we have, those major projects that we have talked about and were the kind of flagships of that bond are all on target for completion from the financial standpoint in terms of having sufficient funds, and also from the design standpoint of moving forward at the pace we would expect them to be. For example, yet tomorrow we had a meeting scheduled on the pool design. We had to push that back just for some scheduling issues, but continuing to move those projects forward, knowing that they have to kind of flow in sequence here with the anticipated place that we're wanting to land the pool. But those remaining big projects you can see are in there. We've substantially completed the majority of them, but just kind of laying that out as well. Quick observations. I think it's very fair to say that overall inflationary pressures are pretty obvious, regardless of what project you do. So if it's HVAC, if it's North Middle School expansion, if it's purchasing band equipment, it's all more expensive than it was 5 years ago. But that's kind of the nature and scope of going through this process. One thing I did want to point out is I think that accelerating that HVAC work as we've done, in addition to accomplishing a better learning environment for our students and staff, it's also probably saved us some long-term inflationary costs by getting those done earlier and in a more robust fashion than we initially looked at. And then lastly, on the storm shelters, one thing that will be interesting for the future board and also Dr. St. Pierre, superintendent, we have now completed 3 different types of storm shelter design in the district. The Pheasant Point kind of standard box. If you look at it, then the project at North Middle School incorporated classroom design storm shelters, which is unique for us. And then the project at North High School, more that multi-purpose room that's also a storm shelter. And I think one of the things that's been pretty evident, particularly at the elementary level for us, is the design and the use at Pheasant Point and having that big block structure is great, it's appropriate, it allows them some versatility. But seeing what this project at North Middle School told us about options, you could have some flexibility. And I would say this as a hypothetical, not the direction we're going. But hypothetically, instead of looking at something out on the north side, whether it's an additional elementary school that would involve additional purchase costs, operating costs, all of those things that come with a new facility, you could look at a storm shelter classroom design on the north side. And that would allow you to accommodate any additional growth, but also give a much more versatile learning space for those schools. So that's a future design consideration that we'll want to look at as we continue to go forward on building those projects. So just a quick notation on that. Moving along. Talking then about future planning as we roll through, the midpoint of this CSIP. We have started to, going back a better part of 2.5 years, started to earmark what are some future projects that we know. And some of these are obvious, recurring costs, recurring projects like HVAC, technology replacement schedules, painting, the things you would normally be doing with a district with as many facilities as we have. So you can see them listed there. Major projects that we have started to identify as need areas, elementary playgrounds, and doing those as a more comprehensive district-wide project rather than individual one-offs at buildings. I think that is a clear area of need for us as a district, and we've got some parallels in our region that we can look at what other districts are doing with those facilities. I think you're always going to be wanting to look ahead on your safety enhancements, additional projects. We talked about storm shelters, and then at least exploring the viability or need for turf, baseball and softball fields. Within that would allow you some flexibility with rain usage. It's difficult for us. We're a little bit behind the curve with some of those field developments. You're starting to see a few of the turf, baseball and softball in our region, but not a ton of them yet. So it's just something as part of future planning. And then overall general facility upgrades, looking at all those different elements, interior, exterior lighting. I would take this beyond just your normal stadium lighting and talk about what can you do to increase safety on your campuses in the evening hours. It's a little bit like what we did out here with some of the lighting for the parking lot for district office. So kind of moving towards the summary, as mentioned previously, we are working on that RFP to get some pricing on a third party. And then we would use that along with our information on preliminary needs to start developing future bond planning. So with that in mind, that's all I had on the efficiency and bond update. So go back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Myers. And again, there's no action required at this point in time on this. It's just an update on these two areas, but we're happy to answer any questions the board may have on those two areas we hit.
Questions? Thank you guys. Next, new business?
One item for new business. And again, no action is required on this item, but the board is aware our filing for vacant positions closed recently. We have 2 3-year candidate positions that will become available with the April 8th, 2025 election. And so that board filing did close, and I would like to share with you the candidates who have submitted paperwork and will be listed on the ballot. This will be listed in ballot order. 4 candidates we have: Arnie C. A.C. Arn Dienhoff, John Christopher, Jeff Marion, Tanya L. Roth. No action required. We'll make those candidate bios available on our website in the very near future. And good luck to the candidates, and thank you for your interest in potentially serving on the school board.
Thank you. Brief comments from the board. I'll start with you, Dr. Marion.
I have a couple. Start with the happy stuff. First of all, I want to officially call out our counselors in our school, because National Counselors Week is coming up, February 3rd through the 7th. It is National School Counselors Appreciation Week. So our school counselors and mental health professionals do so much for our students and staff, and are great resources to our families, and that need is growing so much. So, and having my wife being one, I'd be remiss if I didn't point that out. But truly, they have thankless jobs at times, and I want to make sure we recognize our counselors. So appreciate those folks working so hard. I also want to give a shout out to Tim Grimes, who was recently inducted into the GAC Hall of Fame. He is a Zumwalt High class of 1987 graduate. He was inducted into the GSC Athletic Hall of Fame. He helped the Panthers capture their first district title in baseball in 1986. Was also a member of the basketball team. He went on to teach and coach at Fort Zumwalt South, winning multiple basketball titles. He was an assistant principal at North High before he served as activities coordinator at East High. school beginning in 2007 until he retired in 2022. We're excited to see Mr. Grimes recognized by the GEC, so congrats to Tim Grimes. And then also, I wanted to respond, or at least follow up some of the comments in open public speak. There were some comments that were made by an individual about insinuating that there was school violence happening in schools and certain principals might be hiding that by doctoring the records. That's a serious accusation. And I want to know, has anyone, to Dr. Myers or Henry St. Pierre's knowledge, made any such complaint and so it can be investigated?
No, I appreciate you asking because I had the same concern when that was verbalized, so nothing has been shared with me regarding any of that.
Thank you. So if that's the case, then I would suggest folks follow policy KL for public complaints. If they have a serious allegation with actual facts, then we certainly want to hear about it. Otherwise, idle comments, just hearsay and gossip, sounds more like defamation to me. So I have a big concern when we say things in open session, when we haven't bothered to bring them to the appropriate people ahead of time so that they can do their job and investigate them. So I question the motive of someone who would do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. George?
All right. Our team of mental health professionals is finalizing details for the 3rd annual prom boutique scheduled for 2:30 to 7 p.m. on February 7th. They are currently taking donations of dresses, men's suits, shirts, pants, etc., as well as dress shoes and accessories. The boutique provides a no-cost option to get ready for prom for all students. You can find more information about that on our website. And in honor of MLK Day yesterday, which we were all off for, I've got a quote. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and think critically. There's way more that he had, but that's just one of them. And I would also like to ask everybody to be kind to each other because it's going to be a rough 4 years. Thank you.
Mr. Christopher?
As always, thank everybody for the great job that they do. Hope everybody had a good holiday and start that second semester strong and continue it through. We got a shout out to 2 North High wrestlers, Deacon Moran and Cole McGuire. Both recorded their 100th victory in wrestling. Mr. Moran won the GAC title at 190 and Mr. McGuire won it at 157. And for somebody that was a wrestler and coached wrestling, never got close to 100 wins, I know how hard that is. So very impressed by both of these young men. So we congratulate them. And I really second the thoughts of Mr. Marion on his last comment. I think words can be harmful and they should be verified. And speaking words for show is one thing. But once again, thank everybody for doing the great job. Teachers always appreciate you, and let's have a great semester.
Thank you. Mr. Pratt?
Sure. So I have a lot of things to give to support staff, and we'll start with, we had a snowstorm a couple weeks ago. We had a lot of maintenance personnel and custodians that helped tackle removing all that snow. And then next, North Middle is open with the additions, and there was a lot of people, custodial, maintenance, technology individuals that worked throughout Christmas break to get that up and going. So thanks to them.
Ms. Bird?
Thank you. I also wanted to thank everyone who helped prepare the school for students and staff after the snow. That was a lot. So thank you for sticking with it and getting everyone back safely. I also am very impressed by this student. I was also in theater. Congratulations to the performers who participated in the annual state theater conference this month, including South High's, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced this, Talia Wright. She was selected to cast and present her original one act, Love's Root, for the Page to Stage event. Students participate in workshops led by professionals from around the country, compete and perform for colleges on hand as part of the scholarship application process. And they are also recognized as school organizations. North High's Panthers players were designated an honor troop for their excellence on stage and in the community. And finally, I had to grab this one. Congratulations to DuBray Middle School's band teacher, Catherine Finsky, who was inducted into the Band World Legion of Honor. Only 8 directors received this honor this year, which goes to someone who has been teaching at least 15 years and shown through their involvement a dedication to band and band music. Ms. Finsky will be honored at the John Philip Sousa Foundation Awards ceremony in Chicago later this year. Ms. Finsky is my daughter's band teacher, and I can say she is absolutely incredible, very dedicated, and I'm just so happy for her. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to put a big congratulations out to Rebecca Van Sant, who teaches 6th grade math at West Middle School. Last week, the National Science Foundation notified her on behalf of the White House to let her know she's been named a Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching recipient. It is the highest honor a K-12 math or science teacher can receive from the government. After a rigorous application process, a panel reviews information and submits the recommendations to the White House Office of Science and Technology. Ms. Van Sant is only one of 336 teachers selected from across the nation. She will visit Washington, D.C. later this year to receive her award. And she gets $10,000 on top of that. And she happens to be my son's math teacher. And she is phenomenal. That woman goes above and beyond. She would do anything for those kids. And I'm so blessed that he got her this year. But she does that for everybody. So this is very, very much deserved for her. So congrats to Ms. Van Sant. And also a thank you, like you all said, to our support staff, to our admin, to the people in this room. When that snowstorm hit, I know it's challenging at times, and we've gotten used to getting that phone call earlier in the day sometimes, but if everybody could just have a little bit of patience, because these people here are riding around in their cars, out checking that weather, and they want to make sure the best call. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all parents, and we all care about these kids, and we're not going to put them on the road or our staff if it's not safe. So I know everybody wants to know to get their plans, but just know that everybody's trying to make the right decision, and safety is always number one with us. And everybody chipped in. Everybody was out there, in their boots, shoveling and trying to get the snow that's still sitting there, hopefully not much longer. I'm so sick of snow. But we're so appreciative of everybody who, did that. And please, even if it's cold outside, we do have processes for things. It's not just because Dr. Myers and Dr. St. Pierre gets a whim. So with that, we're going to go into closed session. We will not be coming back to open session afterwards. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Motion.
Mr. Pratt, second Ms. Bird. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Mrs. Bird?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Dr. Marion?
Yes.
Mr. Christopher?
Yes.
Mrs. Potter?
Yes. All right. Bring you on closed session.